The series is over. The Phoenix Suns defeat the New Orleans Pelicans in the Big Easy by a final score of 115 to 109. Take the series 4-2. And listen, folks, I know you're here because you want to hear both Matthew and I's NFL draft analysis, right? You're here to understand what's going on. Why are some teams taking offensive linemen, defensive linemen? Matthew, on the night of the NFL draft, which is normally a night that I thoroughly enjoy, the first round of the NFL draft, I typically get together with friends. I'm at home alone watching a Suns game because that's all that fucking matters.
Yeah, what is it usually when is it lined up like this always where the draft is during the playoffs? I always feel like it's always a night where there's nothing on. Is that the way it always has been? Because I don't remember watching.
I don't know because the Suns.
I don't remember.
The Suns
I feel like it's never this time, but
never playing during the draft. You know, until last year they hadn't been in the playoffs for a long time, and last year was a weird playoffs. So, I have no idea what's going on in the NFL draft. I'll check it out later. I don't care. The Phoenix Suns, Game 6 victory, massive W, and it's nice to just put the Pelicans in the rearview mirror, right? Because I will tip my hat ever so politely to them. I will give them credit where credit is due. They were a team that was pesky. They played with athleticism. They played with tenacity. They played with annoyance. And they played with toughness. And overall, it wasn't enough to beat the Phoenix Suns and a perfect Chris Paul, but you have to tip your cap for the effort that they put forth.
You do. And during the game today, I was thinking, I'm not going to give them credit. I'm going to be, I'm going to come on here. I'm going to be like, F those guys. They can suck it. All that stuff. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But then Willie Green crying at the end, I was just like, all right, give them their dues. It's fine. They all gave each other handshakes. That's the way the NBA is now. I'm just so glad it's over. I've never thought I would hate a team called the Pelicans in my life. You know what I mean? If you were to say, this team's the Pelicans from New Orleans are young, they're fun to watch. Yeah, I would root that team on, but now I hate them. We'll see them again next year. Good luck to them. But man, yeah, Chris Paul made sure that this game was over, right? Towards the end, he just made sure he
did everything he could, man.
Yeah.
Did everything that he could. Yeah, I mean, this is a team in the Pelicans that you and I have on numerous occasions prior to this playoff run admitted that we were fans of. We liked what they were doing. We thought that they got a raw deal with Anthony Davis being a bitch and wanted to leave and forcing himself out. And the way that they turned those assets around into something productive was admirable. And I know that it's a team that I've enjoyed watching from afar, but playing them, I give them a level of respect. We've said it before. This is a team that definitely will be around next year. Their arrow is pointing up. They also are aligned to take the Lakers' first-round pick as a part of that Anthony Davis trade. So I'm just glad we just don't have to deal with them anymore, because now, as we'll talk about at the back end of this podcast, we're going to go into some familiarity when it comes to our foes, to the teams that we hold ourselves and the majority of the league holds us with as far as prestige, as far as viable opponents in both the Dallas Mavericks and potentially the Utah Jazz. So plenty to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Welcome, Jamsters. Thanks for hanging out with us. We truly appreciate it. Whether you're watching along live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or if you're listening to the podcast another time, or if you're watching the podcast another time, we appreciate you taking some time out of your day and spending it with both Matthew and myself. My name is John Voida. You can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. His name is Matthew Lissy. You can follow Matthew on Twitter
at Matthew Lissy.
And you can follow the show, of course, at Suns Jam on Twitter as well. We'll get back to doing the Twitter spaces during halftime in the Western Conference semifinals. I don't know if anybody could tell, but my voice is a little off. I've been sick for the past week, and I just don't have the energy to necessarily do. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've turned a corner. I've turned a corner on this thing. I'm hoping I actually could get some work done today, and could mentally and cognitively put a sentence together, and writing emails and doing work. Earlier this week, I couldn't do it. I got the vid. Yeah. I've been vidded out all week, and I've just been tired. And it's like doing this podcast just the other night, just zapped me. All the energy. It's unbelievable how much it zapped me. So 2 years, I'm always late to everything. 2 years later, I finally got the vid, and yeah,
I'm so sorry, man. I mean, if it gets that bad, we'll have to have some nurse or something hold up the phone for you while you're doing it in the hospital. I mean, if that's what we have to do, right?
Hey, champions adjust, right? Champions adjust. So Matthew, I'm just gonna be drinking water. I know I'm lame, but I'm just drinking water tonight. So I'm
Water
what
too.
hey, let's
I
see
gotta
that
go pump. I'm gonna use
let's
this
let's see
adrenaline,
that
dude.
cup. Let's see that cup.
We twinsies.
Yeah, we're twinning. We got the same cup.
I have the hardest time trying to show my cup on the video. I don't know what this is.
Well, we're not chugging for the fellas. With the fellas, with the sickos, we were relying on you, Jamster, to go ahead and do that for us. So pop them if you got them. Let's talk about this Game 6 and series clinching victory for your Phoenix Suns. Yep, we're not going to have to talk about Jose Alvarado anymore. We're not going to have to talk about Brandon Ingram. We might have to talk about some rebounding issues moving forward in the playoffs, but we don't have to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. Suns win 115-109, clinch the series on the road. And that brings me to my first question.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, I got to ask, before the game, a lot of speculation was going around there. Devin Booker's back. He was back. What do you think about how he came back in this game and how all the flack that was out there for Flex from Jersey for actually saying that he would be back? And then everyone's like, thought he was full of shit. Then he was. And everyone's like, oh, hey, look, a tree.
Yeah. They just they kind of ignore him still, right? And the whole thing with him on Twitter, I feel bad every year because now the Suns are actually something. There's something that's very noticeable in the NBA. He's given out information before Woj. So a lot of times these fans will actually go back at him like, oh, this wasn't true. Like you said, this didn't happen. It's like he's always automatic. He's 99.9%. The one time he said Book was coming back, he actually came back to the sideline. That's it. But he knows what's going on. So I love listening to him. That's all I look for Suns news is Flex. And he's so constant because you wake up in the morning, there's Flex's 2 tweets probably overnight. There's just the waiting for you when you wake up. You can get your Suns information.
Yep.
You might lose some sleep over it, but by the time you wake up from your hour nap overnight because you're worried about Devin Booker, there's Flex. He lets you know that he's going to play tonight. It wasn't the same exact Booker, but it was good enough for the Suns to get the win tonight.
Well, and it's funny because we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast that Flex had tweeted out while we were recording our podcast that Devin Booker most likely would be back, and again, if you're not somebody who follows at Flex from Jersey on Twitter, I recommend doing so because he's got good insight to the team. And is it 100% accurate? No, he's not trying to be Woj, and that's Woj's job. Flex just knows people and is privy to information, and he puts it out there in a strategic way that doesn't damage his sources, and it's good for us fans to get an idea. And go figure, Devin Booker comes back tonight. Not the greatest performance by Devin Booker. Didn't really need to be. 32 minutes, 5 for 12 from the field. 13 points. He was 1 of 6 from deep, albeit that 1-3 was pretty big. But when you take a look at Devin Booker, Big Dick Booker. Matthew, how did you think Devin Booker responded tonight, and what do you think the importance was for him to play in this game?
Oh, for him, it's huge. You don't want a game 7. I know we're winning the game 7 if it goes to game 7. Obviously, the way they've been playing, it's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. All the effort comes from Chris Paul in the second game. Usually tonight, Chris Paul had to turn it on, but Booker brings enough to where he's there. You kind of forget about him. That huge 3 where he's wide open, it's like you kind of forget he's on the court because he's not doing a lot. The Suns have to find him in motion to where he's going to shoot the ball from. They had to find him in his spot. Booker, of course, seems like he's not all the way there. So he has a hard time trying to get to his spot on his own. So he was already trying to post up Alvarado. He was already trying to get to his spots before he got the ball. So that was awesome. I mean, it's another shooter. When Chris Paul is perfect today and then he comes out of the game, Booker takes his spot. Booker was there to kind of fill his shoes. I mean, he didn't hit every shot like Chris Paul. I mean, it's impossible. But the name out there on the court, I think, just means something. It means something for Booker to close the series out. The hardest thing I think for him was really sitting over there while the Pelicans were having their way in some games and talking shit, getting under the Suns' skin, and he couldn't do anything about it. So as quickly as he can come back, he wasn't going to come back. That's the competitor he is. He's not going to sit out and be like, you know what, I'm still not 100%. Let's just see if they can win this game and we can go into next series and I'll be healthy. I don't think, you can't do that because he's not going to do that, but the Suns can't do that because they can't risk it. I think just having him out there, he didn't make any boneheaded plays really. He took care of the ball. Well, first quarter, he had a few turnovers. After that, then he was like, okay, I'm not going to handle the ball as much. Defensively, he wasn't even really a reliability. Was he? Like, I thought he did okay. Like
he
was
had
actually
a
hanging
great
with
possession against Brandon Ingram in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Yes,
that
exactly.
was huge. He forced him left.
He played great.
He stood him up, and Ingram bricked the ball.
Forced him left. Yeah,
Yep,
isn't it weird to see him go left?
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's
strange.
what we should have been doing this whole series. But to that point, I think what Devin Booker did out there tonight was good. Not only obviously for the Suns because we could use it. It gave us another wrinkle that you just didn't see this entire series with Devin Booker out, but for himself, I think that it was good for him to get out there and work out some of the kinks and get kind of into game shape, if you will, and just get the blood and the juices going and utilize the competitive nature that he has that's been sitting on the side of the court for the past, like you said, week, missing all those games. It's gotta be just frustrating for him. So to see him come out and be, again, not unbelievably productive, but at the same time, excuse me,
hanging in there.
Yeah, but be engaged and playing the way that we want him to play, so it annoys the opposition. That's the key to me. Is like it was annoying the Pelicans fans because I'll talk about it in the subreddit stakeout. He got under their skin. That's for sure. Shout out. Excuse me. God, my voice is killing me. Can you hear it in my voice?
You sound great.
Okay.
You sound even sexier than normal. So
okay.
Don't tell your wife.
Shout out to Kez cousin Will 9999 super chat. 4 down. Wainwright to go. P.S. Bob Cousy my ass. CP3 for the win. Yes, It is time to bring up the point guard.
The point guard.
So got $5 from Samurai Fuchs. CP, MNF and 3. Third best shooting night in NBA history behind Wilt going 18 for 18 and 16 for 16. But both of those were regular season. Playoff immortality. I was hoping somebody would come up with the stat because it's historical when you go from the field 14 of 14 like Chris Paul did, 33 points for the point guard, 8 assists on top of that. I mean, he just dominated this game, man. He dominated this game. What he did in that third quarter, I think, was really special too. Because you got to remember, entering that third quarter, Phoenix Suns were down. They had a really bad second quarter. They were outscored 30-20, so they were down 10 going into the half. And CP3 came out, went 6 for 6 in that third, 13 points, had 3 assists as well. And for the first time in the series, they outscored the New Orleans Pelicans in the third quarter. They did it by a score of 34-27. Matthew, what did you see in that quarter and in this game, and how special was that performance by CP3 tonight?
Well, before that quarter, in the second quarter, I was actually listening to the game. That was the worst quarter to listen to because I was driving home from work. I can't do nothing about it. Sorry, but I was watching the game in my lap, in my crotch. So for anybody driving by, it's me screaming at my crotch the whole time on the way home. That's the way that was. Chris Paul cooled that off. He made sure to really kind of give me some strength because I was talking to nephew Hayden. I'm like, I don't know if this is. I think the Suns lose this one, they win Game 7. That's the way it was looking.
Yeah,
historical performance by Chris Paul, and he does come through. Like the history of Chris Paul, he hasn't won a championship yet. A lot of it is due. Like Russillo brings it up. It's like he's always out. He's always hurt. He's always injured. That he can't do anything about that. But when he is in there, like this is just something that any team would love to have on their team. Of course, they would want this, but he comes into the game in the third quarter, and I'm honestly thinking that this is probably going to be a loss. There's no way to catch up, but the defense looked great. Chris Paul, everything was so slow. Every shot might have looked difficult, but he made it look easy. He took his time with everything, no rush at all. And it just started with his first shot. His first shot that went in, nothing moved. The net didn't move. Nothing moved.
Yeah.
I'm like, I actually noted that. I'm like, this is special. He's 6 for 6, 7 for 7, whatever. Like you go down the line, he never misses. Ayton was just right there with him almost. But you have to have this kind of game. I mean, it's something where a superstar, when they step up like this, especially when it's just from mid-range most of the game, it's awesome because he didn't miss a shot, but also like it's not as flashy. You know, that's the way the Suns will win a game. This is a
Oh yeah.
historical performance that the Suns will have because it's all from mid-range mostly. And you just, even the bounces, like his little floater he had where he shot it over Valanciunas and it bounced on the back of the rim, went up and went back in. Like after that, I'm like, there's no way this guy's missing. There's no way we can throw this away and lose this game because we have to win this game now because he's perfect. Can you imagine going perfect in the way Ayton shot tonight and still losing, even though Booker didn't look good? Like, you can't let this go to waste, and they didn't. So, best performance I've ever seen from Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, we've seen some great playoff performances from Chris Paul since he joined the Phoenix Suns. Some of the things that he did in that Clipper series last year was fantastic. This series, though, I mean, he was great. And in this game, he was perfect. It's unbelievable that a guy at this age is diving around the court for loose balls, orchestrating the offense. And what's even crazier to me is the fact that the Pelicans like never really tried to blitz him, double him. Their whole strategy was, we're just going to try to tire him out through full court pressure the entire game, the entire series. Well, guess what? 4-2. Fuck you. How about that, Pelicans? I'm so I hate Pelicans fans so much right
you
now.
know what? I do too. And there's no respect. I'm sick of the respect part of everything.
Yes.
A little Freudian slip there almost, you know. I'm sick of the respecting where we have to respect these guys. And we do, I guess, but it all comes down to hate. A lot of this is just all hate. And you hate this other team. You hate the other fan base. You want to beat them. Even when they come out with those FJ Crowder shirts.
Yes.
Like, all right, this has to end tonight. When you're rolling those out, spend all that money, you can wear it for one game. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
what do you do with that
bullshit.
shirt? What do you do with that shirt afterwards? Like, so you go to the trouble of making multiple fuck Jay Crowder shirts.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think that, you know, somebody had said to I think it was Suns assistant coach.
Oh, it was
Tech.
yeah.
Why is his name slipping me? See, this is where being sick
come on,
sucks.
Jamsters. Come on, we need you. What was his name?
Anyways, the assistant coach for the Phoenix Suns went up to the fan before the game and said, "Hey, you're going to get tossed out for those shirts." He's like, "It's okay, I got 6 of them." Right? It's like, so you go Jarrett Jack. Thank you, Fabio. Jarrett Jack.
Thanks, Fabio.
Right on the tip of my tongue, but just couldn't get it out. But you go through the trouble of making these shirts, wearing them to the game, only to watch your team lose. Like, what do you do with that shirt afterwards? Like, is that because you're not wearing that shirt to like Target, right? Like, you're not like, hey, honey, we got to go to Fry's. Oh, let me get my fuck Jay Crowder shirt on. Hold on 1 second there, sweetie. Like, you're not going to be doing that, right? So it's
I think they might keep it because it was a great series. It was a series other than the Anthony Davis series way back when he won one series. I think that he won the first round. This is the best thing that's happened to this team in a long time. So I think the fact that they went head to head with the Suns, the best team in the league, one of the most historical teams ever played during a regular season, and you push them 6 games, I think that shirt is kind of cool. I bet you, next year if this happens again, they come back out.
Is you hold on to it, and whenever you go to a Pelicans game as a Pelicans fan, that's when you wear the shirt, because there'll be somebody like 10 years from now, you'll be wearing that shirt, and somebody will be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck Jay Crowder. Okay.
Yeah, because they'll remember. It's just like when every time, like last year when the Suns, their first playoff run in a long time, every series there was something remembered. Like every there was someone getting beat up. There was some
Suns
kind
and
of cool
4
shirt,
guy,
some kind of meme. There was
kid,
always something.
Little fat kid,
and we'll remember that. Yeah, we'll remember that stuff for forever.
Well, I guess he didn't hit 2 threes. In fact, I think he only went 2 for 2 from the field in this game. Yep, that's right. Only 2 for 2 from the field in this, but I'll give him his drop.
It's Jay Crowder.
Oh, Jay Crowder. He let the fan base kind of get to him a little bit. I mean, he definitely was having kind of a rough game, the foul trouble, but he did what he needed to do in this series to get under their skin, just like they got under ours. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Jose Alvarado got under my skin personally. Like, I couldn't stand that dude. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why am I so pissed off at this guy who like just hustles so hard? He's an undrafted free agent rookie. He's earned a spot. He's earning minutes in the playoffs. And I'm like, fuck this dude. You know, I'm like, I have to respect him at some to some degree,
Yeah.
but still, you know, Jay Crowder is that for us, and that's what I was like. I explained to my wife at the very end. She's like, "Why is everybody booing him?" I'm like, "Because they don't like him." Well, why? I'm like, "Well, he's an irritant, just like that little fucker right there. Looks like Little Sweet from Dr. Pepper. It's the sweet one."
He does.
He does. But Jay
you know,
Crowder, motherfucker, 2 for 2 from the field, had
Thanks for
5
bringing it back.
points. He was 2 for 2 in the third quarter only. I'm sorry. Jay Crowder was 3 for 8 overall. I'm like, I could have sworn he made it 3. He was 3 for 8, 1 to 4 from deep, 9 total points, 5 personal fouls, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. Give me your Jay Crowder take.
You know, the first one was nice. It was the first shot the Suns made, and it would look good. The next 2 threes from Jay Crowder were in and out. They looked good. Then after that, it was kind of downhill. Yeah, you know, you wait for the Jay Crowder game where he comes alive and hits huge threes. He hit one big shot this series to kind of ice the game. But it was foot on the line. Even tonight, foot on the line. Like, so it was a weird series for him. One thing is if this series went the other way, you're kind of looking at age and all that shit, you know, just can they keep up with these younger dudes? They do just enough. And I still think we love Jay in the starting lineup. It's just those threes will come because we've seen it before. It's just weird that it's lasted this long. I think you're right. I think the fans, the way this team has played, no one expected this. But then I think with the play-in, when they win those 2 games and they come into this series hot, it's hard to stop that. And I think
they're
the
feeling
fans
themselves.
got under him a little bit, but we got the win. That's all that matters, right?
Amen. And you're right. They're feeling themselves, and rightfully so. I mean, they had to get through 2 teams to have the opportunity to play the Suns, and you know they caught a heater. And the Suns survived that heater. And I think that's one thing that as we get further away from the series, we'll always look back at the series on how annoying and pesky this team was to play against. But it might have been, as I said a couple podcasts ago, it might be the perfect opponent for the Suns because it re-engaged the Suns. They were really kind of pushed to the point where they really had to make a lot of adjustments that I just don't think that they thought they were going to have to make. Right, you have a team that comes in, they've won 36 total games. They're the 27th best three-point shooting team in the league. You know they're going to be a bitch on the glass, but outside of that, you're not overly worried about anything that they can do on offense or defense. They come out, their young rookies are pesky. You've got Trey Murphy and Herb Jones playing phenomenal. Herb Jones, you know, looking kind of like a Mikal Bridges-esque, if I will.
Yep,
exactly. You know, you got CJ McCollum. He had a kind of a rough series, but Brandon Ingram was playing at like an all-star level, for about a week until, a couple nights ago and tonight included, because they finally had to make those adjustments, but it forced their hands into a lot of these adjustments, right?
Yeah, it was something that we had to see last game where the Suns had to go big and you just had to do it. You had to get the win at home. They didn't really go to it. The only thing that really stuck was Juice is gone, which is good. You know, I thought it might be a little bit of
That's a great adjustment, by the way. We didn't get any
really
Juice the last 2 games, and we looked good.
Yeah.
Take
and
that, everyone who
maybe it's not his series. Maybe just like Jay Crowder's not hitting his threes. Maybe it's not Juice's. But the more and more we go through the season, through the playoffs, that trade, of course, doesn't look as good as we thought it would. But it's nice that Monty can do that, where he's just like, we're not going to play Juice. He's hurting us too much on the court. Where, if the bench comes in, they can't give up a big lead. They can't, because you can see when the Suns take the game back over, it's a slow process. Like in the third quarter, it's a super slow process. So they can't afford to go down 20, go down by 15 in this series in Game 6 in New Orleans, because they won't get it back. They can't. It takes too long for them to get back into the game and to finish them off. Because usually in a game like this during the regular season, I know it's not the playoffs, this game would have been over with 5 minutes left for sure. This game would have been a 10-point game and then blossomed up to 20. But it's a different kind of game where you can't waste these minutes on other guys. Aaron Holiday, hopefully he comes back, because I love seeing him. There's no reason to get rid of that dude. But the adjustments had to be made, and we did, even though we're the best team, right? But you had to adjust. And if he never did, he wouldn't hear the end of it. So good on Monty for that.
Amen. And I see a lot of people who's Juice. So, I mean, what that tells me is you're new to the podcast, and that's fine. Welcome aboard. Torrey Craig is the Juice.
What's up?
Oh, yeah. I forgot they don't know who Juice is.
Yeah.
I always just say Juice because I think that's his name now.
Well, that's the nickname we gave him like last year, and it's kind of stuck because he used to bring that juice coming off the bench and he hasn't really done that thus far this season and in these playoffs. So again, if you're new to the pod, subscribe, rate, review, hit the thumbs up button down below. We talk about these things all the time. Yeah, we have a bunch of dumb nicknames for everybody. But yeah, Torrey Craig was a fat zero in this series, and the adjustment to finally take him out was fantastic. I mean, I wrote an article for Bright Side of the Sun about it a week and a half ago, and just saying, like, look, like negative 47 is what this guy's put up since he came back to the Suns. It was a negative 17 through the first 3 games. Like, he's not doing anything on either side of the court. So offensive, defensively, you're not getting anything from him. Monty Williams made the adjustment, and go figure, they win. So love it. I absolutely love it. Let's talk about Deandre Ayton, because I think that he once again is just the level he's playing at right now is just unbelievable. Deandre Ayton in this game, 10 of 12 from the field, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, his 19-footer is like a layup at this point, man. I mean, he is just so locked in. When he misses one, I'm unbelievably surprised. And I guess that shouldn't surprise me, because he's been doing this for such a long period of time. It's just he got more touches in this series and was allowed to be more effective because Jonas Valanciunas and Larry Nance just couldn't guard this guy the whole series.
No, it's unbelievable how good he played in the first quarter. Right beside Chris Paul, they were just knocking down everything. We're just so used to it. I keep thinking about DeAndre, how efficient he is, where I think we've only had like a handful of games where he hasn't been. So this is just who he is. And it's something where a lot of big men can never do this. And the way he stops and pops with that little floater, and it's quick. Like it's so quick where he like catches himself to where he's stopping, but he's like, I have to release the ball. You know what I mean? Like he releases it a little bit later sometimes, but it doesn't matter. Like anything that rolls off his fingertips is going in, I feel like. And that's something nice to have down in the middle. And the only thing is, of course, with the rebounding, and we'll talk about it, it has to be more team rebounding, but there are plays where he needs to be a little bit more physical to grab the board and stuff, because that's just the way it's going to happen now. Every series, everyone's going to attack the Suns down low, so he has to be prepared for that. I'm not saying tonight was a bad game there. I just think a little bit more in the next few series, because he has to prepare for these guys to go at him even harder in the next few series. As I say, the next few, but let's focus on the next one. The next one, he's going to make sure that he has to make sure that he has that intensity to match them. And offensively, it's all there. And I love how the Suns never go away from him, how he's always still an option. Like last year, you never saw that. Last year, you didn't see like how they're running different picks, and then DeAndre's there, and they would always miss him, right? They would just leave him standing there.
Yep. Now,
give him the ball wherever he wants. Give him the ball top of the key, wherever, on the elbow, and he'll drain it. So what a crazy team where they're just so good. Such sweet shots from everywhere on the floor, and including their center. It's unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, they can pick you apart in so many different ways, and we know that from watching the team all year long. And knowing that Devin Booker was compromised in this game a little bit, but for the series, without a doubt, the fact that he did what he did is just unbelievable. 118.2 offensive rating, had a defensive rating of 113.4, net rating of 4.7 in this series. Kudos to DeAndre Ayton on the way that he's continuing to just be just solid. That's all you need to do. We always get ourselves excited thinking he's going to go for 40, right? He's not going to go for 40 because the Suns don't need him to go for 40. If they need him to go for 40, although I will say, in the game 4 loss, I felt like that was the opportunity where they could have just kept feeding the DA and they just kind of went away from it. Yeah. But his efficiency is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. His touch, his efficiency, for a big man to do what he does, and with the delicate manner that he can do it. Because, there's that borderline between aggression and finesse, and I'll call that delicacy. He's got a delicacy about him when he's shooting those jumpers that is just it's like when you watch Jonas Valanciunas shoot a 3, he like chucks the ball at the versus DA
Aaron Baines style, right?
Aaron Baines style. There you go. That's a good way to put it. Aaron Baines used to chuck it at the hoop, whereas DA's just got that delicate touch to him. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with him in the offseason, but we got a long postseason ahead of us, and he's going to be absolutely valuable to the success of this Suns team. JaVale McGee kind of had a boneheaded game today. But I just think that that's because there was a couple bad calls there. How many minutes did he end with?
You know what? I was thinking that. I'm like, was he even playing? Like, what happened to him today? 3 minutes, 17
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah, how many fouls? 2 fouls. It was the 2 fouls.
2 fouls.
Yeah, he came in and there was just like, it was like foul. It was just like, oh, okay, that's cool.
He just never came back. Well,
Just
DeAndre
never-
did play the 40 minutes, so.
Well, that was the other adjustment I was going to talk about with
Yeah.
DA was the fact that Monty Williams goes, you know what, this is a closeout game. We're having DA play as much as possible.
Yeah.
You know, we're putting him out there for 40. You know, I'm surprised he didn't do him 42, 43 because he probably could have done it. You know, if Mikal Bridges is out there every night, Mikal, again, has 44 tonight. But if Mikal Bridges is out there doing it every night, DA can do it as well.
Yeah, and he's going to have to. He's going to have to do everything he can to really close these series, and I like it because the way JaVale came out, it didn't look like a JaVale game. Bismack was playing a little bit, but we had to have Ayton play those full minutes, and I think he's going to have to do it a lot more going into the next series. You know what? I don't know, though. I mean, it depends when we play next. I'm just glad the series is over with those bigs.
Me
Dude,
too,
you
man.
were so right about this series. I said 4-0. I mean, the Booker thing did change it, but, man, that rebounding – I thought they could do everything else better than the Pelicans, where we didn't have to worry about the rebounding as much, which makes no sense. It's the worst analysis ever. And I just said 4-0, but you were right, John. You know.
Well, thank you very much. Again, the Suns were out rebounded in this game, 36-32. 12 of those came on the offensive boards for the Pelicans, and you know the thing that killed us in this game again, 18-4 in second chance points.
Yeah.
You know, you're not giving up those second possessions, or it's a little bit more even. You know, it's a blowout. I mean, I can go through every game and tell you like the one thing the Suns could have done, and they would have killed the Pelicans in every game, including the wins. Because I know, they might have won games, but they didn't crush their souls, and they were so ripe and just ready for a good crushing, and they didn't do it. And it was the second chance points again in this one, and the fast break points, 20-7, and that's what killed the Suns in that second quarter.
Yeah.
Right. That second quarter where the Suns were just discombobulated. And I think the reason that the Suns were discombobulated in the second quarter is they started with the big lineup with Bismack Biyombo and with JaVale McGee. And they ran that for about 1:33. And then after the fouls, they got Jonas Valanciunas in foul trouble. He picked up 2 quick ones, and with 28 seconds, he was out of the second quarter. And then they went, with Larry Nance. Larry Nance is a smaller, harder guy to guard with those 2 big guys, in my opinion. And they got taken out of kind of what their game plan was for the second quarter, and the Suns had a hard time adjusting to it. Meanwhile, they're turning the ball over, and you have Larry Nance go for 10 points in the quarter. Six rebounds, 5 on the offensive boards. So Larry Nance single-handedly destroyed the Suns in that second quarter and put them up by 10 points going into the half.
That was the worst quarter. Like I'm glad I was kind of driving home and I was just listening to it because I did turn it off with 2 minutes left because I was like, whatever the Pelicans are doing, they're gonna get what they want in this quarter. And I cannot stand to even hear it, especially when you listen to it TNT, right? I mean, Pelicans could do no wrong that quarter. So I'm like, let's just get to halftime. And it was to 10 points. It's to 8 points, and then CJ gets another putback. I saw it was a putback. And I'm like, Can they get the board? This is something I don't want to worry about at all. Speaking of fouls, CJ did have 5 fouls this game, which he absolutely deserved. He should have been kicked out of the game.
Yeah, he should have got kicked. Yes, let's talk about that.
That was
man.
flagrant too. That was a flagrant 2. And they kept doing this every game. There was one Pelican to step up and cross-check somebody.
Yeah.
That was not a play on the ball. All he did was shove him over and put the forearm into him like a linebacker.
Well, yeah,
I don't understand
through
how
him.
Is it because it was CJ? Is it because it was too early in the game? They couldn't throw him out?
That's exactly what I said on Twitter when it happened. I'm like, he won't get thrown out because it's CJ McCollum and it's too early in the game of an elimination game. It's the only reasons. Because if this is game 3, like, he's gone. He went through Cam Johnson on that play. It was a clear, and you can go through the series. Like Herb Jones did it during, I think it was game 1, where he jumped into DeAndre Ayton. Put his shoulder right into his chin. They reviewed it. They didn't call anything. They're like, oh, yeah, it just happened. Incidental contacts. Like, did you watch it from this view where you could see him look at him, run at him, and just like throw a leaning shoulder into his jaw?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've had the Jackson Hayes, Herb Jones, and again, and then you had CJ McCollum in this game. It's like they should have thrown him out. So he was on borrowed time the entire game. And then he was fouling people. I mean, again, it was interesting being on the Pelicans subreddit during this, because you have to remember, just 2 games ago, every call went their way. They outshot us 45 or 47 to 30 to 15 from the free throw line. And even last game, it was like, what, 35-25 or something. So, I mean, it was just like they've had a series where they've been allowed to play so physical, and they were being called out for some of their physicality in this game. The refs were blowing the whistle on some of the physicality. There was that one play where Herb Jones was, he stuck his ass out and knocked Mikal Bridges down while he still had the ball before he passed it. He's like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, you can't just like throw your ass into people, you know?
Yeah.
And Jonas Valanciunas, God, I'm going to be so glad not to see Jonas Valanciunas and Larry Nance and their stupid fucking moving screens.
Yes.
Like, those guys moved the entire series. They leaned into people. They moved. Jonas Valanciunas would like set a screen and like literally shuffle step with the screen. I'm like, how are they not calling this shit? How are they not calling it?
Nice effects, dude. Very nice. Steven Spielberg-esque.
He went to my high school.
Did he really? Okay, tell him I said hi.
I will.
Hey, so since we're on the podcast, I want to. It was a shout out to you, really, from myself to you through the clouds, trying to reach you to your COVID little sanctuary over there. When those screens were being set, and they were actually calling the fouls. I'm like, man, John, there you go. There's your call. But
there's
also
my calls.
2 of them, and there was the one on Jay Crowder, or that CJ pushed off, and that's good because CJ got his 5th foul and he was out of the game. But that one where that was a foul on Big V and CJ, but they called it on CJ because Big V always just sets a little and then runs. Like, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. And the officiating did get better as the games with Monty, probably the series MVP for stepping up, taking $15,000, which is nothing. Well, actually for a coach it's probably a lot. But taking that fine to say something to the refs, be like, hey, we need some help here. We can't play the refs again in a series and try to beat this Pelicans team that just won't give up.
Yeah. And I think somebody put it on Twitter. Like, if you made $50,000 a year, the $15,000 fine, like, perspective to what Monty Williams' salary is, it comes out to like $257. So it's like, he'll gladly take a $257 fine to let them know that. The only play that a couple plays that I thought were really kind of ludicrous, that one with CP3 where, Alvarado's so busy complaining to the ref, he didn't see CP3. He runs right into him. It was a foul on Chris Paul. I'm like, come on.
That was bullshit. Yeah, that was. Did he sell that one a little bit or no? Because I feel
of course he did. Oh, he sold it.
Yeah, but that wasn't. That was a nice pick.
You watch the angles. Chris Paul sees him coming. He's like, I'm just going to stand here. And because Alvarado was clearly just like complaining, and he just runs right into him. And once he feels contact, it's the same thing that he did when Monty used his challenge, where he was driving to the lane, knew he didn't have a chance, so he jumped into Jay Crowder and then just flopped. And you watch it and you're like, dude, that's not even like the fact that we had to use our challenge on this, that you even called that. Like, how can you not see that this guy just literally jumps into people to try to create contact versus actually trying to finish a play at the rim?
And he was
not a basketball player. Yeah, he was getting
him
calls.
And Herb Jones were getting a lot
of
calls.
Unbelievable, dude. These guys are rookies.
I know they were getting more calls than Mikal
calls.
Bridges and Cameron Johnson. And Cameron Johnson's a little awkward, but still, Alvarado, even the last one where I think it was his last and one, where he just throws his body and he didn't even touch anybody. No one
didn't touch anybody. He just
no
jumped in there, threw the ball up, and fell down and screamed.
Yeah.
And everybody's like,
it's the
nuts.
Sweet he was getting one. Everything.
He was getting everything.
The Warden.
Warden, 7 of 12 from the field, 2 for 2 from deep, 18 points in this game. More great defense. I'm going to ask at the back end of this podcast who your jam star of the game is, but I'm also going to ask who your jam star of the series is. Mikal Bridges is close. I think the performances he had in this series were absolutely huge because of the way that he locked down Brandon Ingram in these last 2 games. Brandon Ingram, 44 minutes and 6 seconds played, mirrored Mikal Bridges, it appears, minute for minute. Was 8 of 19 from the field, 21 total points. He had 11 assists. The reason he had 11 assists is because Mikal Bridges kept forcing the ball out of his hand. What'd you see from Mikal, and how fucking amazing is this guy?
it's weird going into this game where he kind of started off a little slow. I'm like, okay, it'll probably be a Mikal Bridges off game, but he doesn't have those anymore, right? He can rebound so quickly from his like slow start, and he can rebound. He can do that too, but rebounding from a slow start offensively is something that he's really focusing on. I feel like to kind of have patience in his game, and it's really paying off because he steps up in times where Ayton and Chris Paul can only do so much offensively. You have Devin Booker tonight who just can't contribute like he can usually. But then Mikal's that other guy that can step in at the times when we need him. Before it was always, he'll try and he'll back away from the situation. Now he's just like, he's independent. He's an independent woman out there. He's doing what he can to really help himself, and his team, his best friends, right? I mean, his last interview, the cutest thing ever. He's out there playing with his best friends. So the way they have each other's backs out there, the way that he knows that he has to step up in a lot of situations now in the playoffs offensively, you can count on him. And you can count on him the big threes. You can count on him getting to the rim. You can count on the mid-range shot too. So he'll beat you every way. Defensively, just as soon as you switch to Ingram was a different player. Ingram was a jam star of the series almost until Mikal Bridges got switched over to him. So just to show you, he is Defensive Player of the Year, a player that can go on to the best player of the series and just shut him down. I mean, Ingram can still get his shots, but still, anytime Mikal was on anybody in the series, I think they went 1 for 101. Like this whole series, it was insane how good his defense is.
It's like Jam says in the chat. He says that steal to take it to 4.
Yes,
was huge. Yeah, that was like the play of the game, in my opinion. That was the play of the game.
That's when I got up and started doing dishes. I was like, game's over.
Game's over.
Game's over.
It was what he's done in this series again. They showed a graphic on the other day on NBA.com or somewhere where they're talking about the top 4 defenders in the playoffs and the worst 4 defenders. You just see Marcus Smart anywhere. That's all I got to say. I know it's a regular season award.
Now everyone's admitting he's like,
well, yeah. I mean, it's just the way it goes. They're like, oh, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, Marcus Smart had a great series against the Boston Celtics, or I mean, against the Brooklyn Nets. But what Mikal has to do against the guys he has to do is just unfucking believable, and he did it again this series. So it was great to see him execute like that again. I'll be reading off stats and all that fun stuff at the end of this to make cases for our jam star of the series, but he's definitely somebody who could be mentioned there because he was just absolutely fantastic.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
Damn it. Did I get it done in time?
Damn it. Should I pull you away? All right.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
There you go.
Can't really see it. I'll just go with this. I'll wear the crown another night. You know what this is?
Yeah, that's the football team, right?
Yeah, the Arizona Hot Shots. Everybody remember
sold out.
Everybody remember the Arizona Hot Shots, the AAIA or whatever, like half season team that they had. I thought it was I always love those colors together. And it's like I'm not a big fan of like Miami football or anything, but the orange and green I just think make a good color combination.
Looks good.
So I actually got this on eBay for like $10. I was like, I want some Arizona Hot Shot merch. So there you go. So there I was hanging out on the Pelicans subreddit. I'll tell you this. I'm so looking forward to never going to the fucking Pelicans subreddit ever again. I'm so sick of them. A few things that they said. One thing that we already touched on, but it was observed time and time again. Don't think I've seen Ayton miss that mid-range this whole series. Just so everybody's aware, Deandre Ayton in this series shot 70% from the field. He averaged 9.3 makes on 13.3 attempts. Unbelievable. 9.3. I don't have the numbers in front of me relative to mid-range shots, but I'll tell you what, they're probably a lot. But yeah, he was 56 of 80 is what he went for in this series. So that's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. That's got to be so annoying for the Pelicans. I love it. Here's a statement I've never heard before, and I thought I'd share with the Jamsters. That pass got me erect. Can't say I've ever had a pass get me erect, but apparently it's happening down in New Orleans. So be careful.
Are you
Careful down there in
sure?
the Big Easy. I don't know.
I can think of more than a handful of times I've been erect on the couch watching the Suns. Yeah.
Yeah, but like off of a pass?
Yeah, pass, shot,
Maybe it's
Someone-
the execution. All
someone.
right,
I don't
here's
know,
one.
bending over.
Shamit smokes Black and Milds. And then somebody
Okay.
responded. Somebody responded. He smokes it and he starts acting high.
Man, not a whole lot of Shamit tonight either. You know,
No, but somebody
No.
thinks that he's a black and mild smoker. You fucking breathe on Crowder and he's on the ground. Yeah,
really?
cry
Do you
about
notice that? I don't. Maybe because he's on our team. I don't know. Usually,
I
I
can-
notice.
I can
Like, these
definitely
players.
see how
Yeah,
Jay Crowder is the person for the opposing team who you focus your frustrations on, because he's the one
Yeah.
who gets the ticky. Chris Paul does it too, and he's been doing it for years. He's got a reputation for it, and so does Jay Crowder. They're the guys who just get the ticky-tack fouls. They're the ones who seek the contact and get the fouls for it. They're the ones who take advantage of the rules and utilize them in their favor. So you have Bridges is good. I'll update my previous comment. Ayton and Bridges are the only Suns I respect. And then somebody right after that said, Chris Paul is the worst bitch. It's just rude.
the worst bitch.
Is
Not just
the
a bitch,
worst
but
bitch.
The worst.
No, the
bitch.
worst.
Okay.
He's not a bitch. He's the worst bitch. The last one, man, I'm fucking disgusted with CJ. His performance this series has been disgraceful. Let's talk a little bit about CJ McCollum.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
So after everything's said and done, CJ McCollum for the New Orleans Pelicans, he came over. The team was 500 since he arrived around the trade deadline. In this series, he ends up shooting 39% from the field, 49 of 125. He was 33% from beyond the arc. I think the frustration for the majority of Pelicans fans is I'm doing math real quick, almost double more than anybody else on his team. He shot 51 threes in this series. He only made 17. Overall, he was a -10 on the court for the entire series. He had 15 turnovers. CJ McCollum, what are your thoughts on him after seeing him perform in this series? Because I know what we could say about Brandon Ingram, but what do you think about McCollum?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was the guy that was on him, right? I think the way that Mikal played him early in the series really threw him off the whole time. You're right. The subreddit thing, they were so hard on CJ because they put a lot on him, right? This is the first time CJ's really been a kind of a leader. Him and Ingram kind of sharing that. But I think Ingram needed CJ just as much as CJ needs Ingram on that team. But CJ, finally the number one guy, just couldn't pull through. But when you're guarded by Mikal, it's very difficult to get any kind of shot off. It throws off your rhythm for the whole series. Then you start getting inside your head. Then you have a game like this where you had the 5 fouls a lot of the fouls were really fucking stupid from him. And I could see why these fans get upset. But for me, when I'm watching, anytime CJ gets 1-3 to go down, I'm like, oh, here he comes down. Next possession, he's going to shoot it again because that's the kind of guy he is. That's the difference between a player like him and a player like Devin Booker, where Booker, he'll get a 3, good look, but then the next play, now the way that Booker plays, the next play, he'll get his team more involved. He'll get himself a better shot look. He won't just throw up these nasty looking threes, even though tonight he had some because I think he was trying to get in some kind of a rhythm, but he doesn't throw up these threes anymore where he's just covered. And it's just like, come on, like we missed that shot in a close game that can swing things. But CJ did that this series. A lot of the times when even wide open shots, he wasn't making. So it never got to a point where even before the series started, where I was like, CJ's the guy to close games out. If it's a close game, he can hit big shots. It never got to that point. That was Brandon Ingram. But then when you switch Mikal over to Ingram, then it took care of that. So It's insane where, we're talking about someone else, and I always have to bring up Mikal Bridges because that's how disrespected he is in the NBA. No one talks about him. So anytime we can mention him in the same breath as anybody else, then I'm going to.
No, I do as well. And I think that this was a tough series because it took us a little bit to understand the dynamic of having those two premier scorers and how to run the right defensive sets to ensure that Mikal Bridges can effectively guard both of them. It's like whoever he guarded, though, I mean, he was unbelievable in this series. CJ McCollum, it's frustrating. He's not great on defense. He never has been. He's never been known to be great on defense. He's kind of what did Bill Simmons say about Donovan Mitchell? He's CJ McCollum with a better press secretary or something. I see it very similar in those two guys.
Yeah.
CJ McCollum, Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell can catch more fire, and he's probably a little bit more explosive. He's a lot more explosive, but they're both kind of the same on defense. And I think that because of the way that CJ McCollum performed in this series, and I'd have to look at his contract situation. Is it up at the end of the season, or is it an option next season? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Actually, if anybody knows, any Jamsters, please help us out again. Like you always do, save our asses.
We'll just pull up his contract real quick. I don't know why I'm spending so much time on fucking CJ McCollum, but that's the sickness, okay? I'm not feeling great.
Dude.
I'm not feeling great. Yeah, this is
the
the ado. Yeah, so there's still another deal left on his contract. No, 2 years. 2 years left on his deal before he's an unrestricted free agent. So they're going to have to figure some things out with him.
I'd keep him, though. I would definitely keep him. Yeah, I would too. You definitely keep him and trade Zion.
Yeah, you just got to add. It's funny you say that because I was on a podcast earlier this week. Nearly killed me too. He's with some guys from New York. And we went down that Zion conversation. Like, do you think they should keep him? I'm like, hell no. Like, that team's great without him right now. He's worth a ton of assets. Why bring him in there? Don't get me wrong. He's like a fantastic player, but like, fuck that.
Jam star of the game.
All right, Jammers. It's a reminder. Subscribe, rate, and review. Give us a thumbs up down below. And let us know in the chat who your Jam star of the game is. I'm going to ask you this, Matthew, because I know that the answer is Chris Paul. I mean, 33 points, 14 of 14 from the field. It doesn't get any better than that. It's Chris Paul. He's your Jam star, right? I'm just making sure.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your Jam star of the series?
This is so tough. I'm going to give it to Ayton.
Okay. Tell me why.
Because we're going to win the championship with him playing this way. He at a certain point in the game where, Chris Paul's going off, of course, but every other game this series where we needed buckets down low, where Ayton's put in difficult situations down low offensively, he still finds a way to get a good look at the rim. Like, this is something where he would pass out early in the season last year. Now he's making sure to turn around and get the easy bucket. That's a big change for him. That's a big thing that I wanted to see going into the series. It makes him just unguardable in a way because, before he would pass out, right? I think a lot of defensives know if he gets the ball, look for the pass out. He's going to find someone else, but now he's taking it on his own. I just think that we just need him so much. I mean, we need all these guys, of course, but tonight was probably the only game where the rebounding wasn't that great from him, where he needed more help. He needed to pay more attention. He was kind of out of the zone, I feel like, rebounding the ball. Other than that, though, the rest of the series, he was so impactful. He was the most consistent thing out there. I know the last two games, Mikal Bridges played really great. And Mikal Bridges' defense is great. It's just what Ayton does for this team is just, I don't know. As I'm saying this, it's like I want to say Mikal, I want to say Chris Paul, but I'm just going to stay Ayton, man.
Yeah, I can see where you're, I can see where you're coming from because he was the most consistent player in my personal and professional opinion in this series. He was consistent the entire time. You know what you're getting from DA. His final stat line when it comes to a per game basis. I'm pulling that up real quick. I clicked run it. Okay, so run it. There it is. Points per game for DA. That's the field goal percentage. 20.5 points per game. 9.8 rebounds a game. So he went for 20 and 10, which is pretty damn impressive considering you have Jonas Valanciunas and you just have a big front line that they're playing against, right?
Yeah.
You're going against this tough team that has a big front line. But for me, it's got to be Chris Paul, man. Chris Paul, not just tonight, but in this entire series. You take a look. Chris Paul goes for 22.3 points per game, adds in 11.3 assists. He goes 14-14 from the field to close them out. He has two massive 19-point fourth quarters to win games 1 and 3. I mean, what Chris Paul did in this series was absolutely fantastic. And, that's, again, a 37-year-old guy who's out there who's doing that is just unbelievably impressive. So shout out to Chris Paul. Next up for the Phoenix Suns. Oh, real quick, do you see this? After the game, Jay Crowder is wearing a Fuck Jay Crowder shirt.
That's the most.
How G out is that?
Suns
I want one of those shirts now
all the time, man.
Dude, I'm gonna make one of those shirts on Redbubble.
Who wouldn't want to fuck Jay Crowder, right? Stand in line, ladies.
Oh man, yeah, those are going up on
Dude,
Redbubble.
that's great. Yeah.
All right, so up next for the Phoenix Suns, we have either the winner, or we don't have either the winner. We have the winner of Dallas or Utah. So right now, Dallas is actually playing Utah. The score is 45-38 Utah. Now, personally, and this is all going to go wrong because this is what I want, and I never get what I want. I want Dallas to win this game, which will make the series 3-3, which will force a Game 7. That pushes game 1 of this series back a couple days. Because if Dallas wins tonight, they clinch the series. Game 1 against Dallas would be Monday. So that's what we
Suns won't play till Monday, right? No
correct.
matter what.
Right now, they
Okay.
don't play till Monday.
Okay.
If Utah wins, it's even later than that. And I'm okay with that. Devin Booker, give him some rest. I'm not worried about rust. We've seen rust for a series, and we still fucking won. I'm worried about rest for Devin Booker. We want him dialed in and ready to go. Do you have a preference on which team you would like to play in the second round, knowing that whoever you want is who we will not face?
Well, now that the Suns beat the Pelicans, I mean, it's all up from here. This is the one team I feel like the Suns they would give them the most fits going into the next. I'm just kidding. Honestly, I would like Dallas. I would love Luka Doncic in the matchup that we can bring him on defense. I would love Utah because it's a team that's, I don't want to say too much, but they are a little soft. They are a little soft.
You're a little soft.
Beat them at the heart and the core. The world, who knows if it really has a core, but I know for sure that they have a heart. Their hearts like break easily. They come out to each game individually. Okay, so each game in this series, you have a good game. This is their good game right now, right? Anytime that they're playing away, they're against the team, they're against everybody. They fall apart. They basically fall apart in situations of where they have to win a game, they're going to fall apart. And I feel like the Suns, the intensity that they're going to have, and a healthy Devin Booker coming out next series, they're going to make sure that they would punch him in the face and probably, it'd be a quicker series. I feel like maybe than the Pelicans won. Dallas, it's just so up in the air because you have a guy like Luka. Even though I think the Suns can beat them, I think it would be a longer series. But I would love to see them just play Dallas because I would just love to beat Luka. I would just love to beat Luka because of that thing, right? You just want to beat him. You want Ayton to go off. You want that defense from Mikal Bridges all over Luka's ass all series long. You want that the fighting with the refs. I want that. I don't want to play Utah. It's fucking boring. That's bad for ratings. So Dallas will probably win.
Fuck
this
ratings.
Series.
Fuck ratings. Here's what I got.
I know, right? What you got?
Utah is a team that I would like to play because I think it's an easier win. Period. I think that you can play Gobert off the court. I do think that playing up in Utah is a challenge, not because the fans are a bunch of jackasses, but the elevation's kind of a pain in the ass. But again, it's a team that we came back from 17 points down and won in the fourth quarter, and a team that is known to get mentally weak in the fourth quarter, and a team that has lost multiple years in the playoffs, multiple. So they know that they're at the back end of something, and if it doesn't go right, if everything doesn't flow right, something's going to happen. They're going to have to blow something up there, and it's either going to be Rudy's gone, which I doubt will happen because no one wants him, or Donovan Mitchell's gone, which I can definitely see happen in this offseason. So that's a team that's playing frightened. Okay, that's the difference between the Jazz and the Pelicans. The Pelicans weren't frightened. They had no reason to be. Why be frightened? We're on borrowed time. We shouldn't be here. We're like CJ McCollum running around after you checked Cameron Johnson. I can do whatever the fuck I want because it doesn't matter. I shouldn't even be in this game right now. Dallas is a team that if they advance, will be the first time that Luka Doncic has sniffed the second round. And the challenge that Dallas presents is something that's similar to that of the Pelicans is you have two creators in Spencer Dinwiddie and Luka Doncic that could be a challenge at the back end of games. Go look at that statistic. The plus minus in clutch time this season, the top 6 guys or the top 7 guys are Phoenix Suns outside of one player. That one player is Spencer Dinwiddie. So he's a guy who can perform well in the clutch. Yeah. So that, but again, that's the series you want because that is just fun to beat that team. It's fun to beat the Mavs. It's fun to see Luka Doncic after all the Luka or DeAndre and all the different storylines that go into that series. To go and to beat that team would be paramount. I feel more comfortable playing either one of those teams than I did the Pelicans. I'll tell you that.
After that,
when we came into this series, I told you I did not want the Pelicans. The next two I would gladly take because on the other side of the bracket, it's Golden State and Memphis. So you played hard to get that number 1 seed so you could have this Western Conference semifinals that could potentially be an easy one. Now, you don't want to get ahead of yourselves. A lot of things can happen. We saw that happen in this series against the Pelicans.
Yeah.
But I would prefer Utah because I just think that we could execute our offense much better against them, but I would be excited to watch a Dallas series as well because I think we can beat them too.
Yeah, and I want people to talk more about Ayton and Mikal Bridges. And I brought that up earlier with Mikal. Like, no one talks. These guys should be talked about like some
I
of the
know.
stars in the NBA. Ayton, the way he plays, like I listen to podcasts, even like Bill Simmons. They'll talk about the Suns, not mention Ayton once, not mention his name ever. And it drives me crazy because they don't realize how good he's been playing defensively and how efficient he is. He's skipped over all the time. Mikal Bridges too. I know we had Devin Booker and Chris Paul, but these guys, they're not that same level, but they're right there with those guys on this team where we were just talking about Jam Star of the series, a special award that we give out once a year. Or maybe 3 or 4 times a year.
I'm hoping 4
depending on
times
this
a year.
You know,
4 times.
so so they had to be recognized, man, and I want them to be recognized against Luka because it's going to draw the best out of them. It is.
Yeah, after seeing what Mikal Bridges did the other night and the fact that wasn't like a leading story, that not only did he score, 31, 33 points, but he held his opposing opponent to like 3 of 17 shooting. It was just fantastic. Yeah. So,
I know.
Again, just keep ignoring the Suns. That's okay. We'll be fine. Matthew, any notes that you missed out? Anything we want to talk about before we get out of here today? What kind of cologne are you wearing today?
This is.
It doesn't matter.
I'm kidding.
Way to fuck up my life.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can never recover from that, man. Okay, my notes. Very scarce this game.
Suns Dog 24. Why are you guys so scared of Dallas or Utah? He must be talking to people in the chat because neither of us said that we. Okay.
I mean, you're always scared as a Suns fan, but I'm not. I don't feel like you, dude. I don't. I fear Luka, but then other than that, nothing else.
I don't even fear Luka. I really don't. I think that Mikal on Luka's would be so exciting, and the size that we have. The one challenge in the Dallas series is Jalen Brunson, because he has he's Alvarado, but with like but he's actually good.
Yeah, Payne actually has to play well.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I think on that note, then, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Another victory for the Phoenix Suns. If this game between the Jazz and the Mavericks goes to Game 7, after that Game 7, we'll do a quick jam session short, talking about the fact that we know who our next opponent is. But until then, we'll see you whenever the Suns play again. Thank you for hanging out with us. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. Follow Matthew on Twitter
at Matthew Lizzie.
And follow the show, of course, at Suns Jam. On behalf of Matthew, this is John.
And on behalf of John, this is Matthew. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Did I screw it up by now?
You were so close. You did it right, but all you had to do is like say it, then say your next line, and then we're good.
Yep. Okay. Well, next show I'll do it right. Go home and love your family.
Go Suns, baby.